Hi everybody, welcome to the very first GG Academy webinar. Today we are focusing on female focused nutrition, and both myself and Jenny, we are really looking forward to bringing you a whole host of female focused webinars over the next couple of months. We aim to do one every single month on a really wide variety, so stick along and let's jump into today's webinar. So before we kickstart today, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about Gigi. So I'm Lisa, I'm one of the co-founders of Gigi. My other co-founder is Jenny. She will be taking on the next webinar. We are both nutritional therapists who've been specialising in female health for a long time now. It is an incredibly big passion of ours, and not only have we seen how supplements, when taken really high quality and in the right doses, can be on our health, we see that there's so many other areas that maybe we just haven't been educated on, or maybe there's just so much misinformation out there that it's really difficult to understand or to figure out, okay, what do I need to be doing for me? So that's why we wanted to kickstart our GG Academy with a nutrition focused one. We want to give you the very basics, so you can leave with a whole host of tips and different nuggets of information that you can start implementing as soon as possible. So this is what we're going to be covering today. We want you to know how to build your plate, what that actually looks like, what are the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients, how much do we need of each. Blood sugar balancing, is it important? It's probably a term you may have heard before, but how it impacts our female hormones. Calories and fasting. We're also going to look at different forms of diets and how they impact us as females with menstrual cycles, and also how our menstrual cycle may influence our hunger and different ways how we can feel throughout the month. So I'm going to take you through a very brief overview of the different phases of the menstrual cycle. Next month's webinar will be a menstrual health 101, basically everything that we should have been taught in school and the information that we now are kind of scrambling to find maybe in our 20s and 30s. But today I just wanted to give an overview because this will be really helpful when we talk about different food groups and different stages of our menstrual cycle and how they may affect how we feel. So if we look at the first phase, that is our bleed. So it's typically from the first day of your period till roughly day 5 or day 7. Everybody's different, so it can kind of vary there. Then we move into what is known as our follicular phase. Our follicular phase is a time of the month where our estrogen and our testosterone levels really start to rise, and when they rise we feel really energetic, really confident. It's often when, if you are someone who trains a lot, you might notice that you hit more PBs in this period. You also feel maybe your sex drive starts to rise, and you just are starting to live your very best self. And this peaks up around ovulation, halfway through the cycle. Then we move into the final stage, which is known as the luteal phase. And this is the stage where a lot of women, if they are experiencing hormonal imbalances, this is the time of the month that they'll really start to see them. And it's during this phase of the month where we rely a lot on progesterone. Progesterone is released after ovulation, and in an ideal world we'd have really nice skyrocketing levels of progesterone to give us a sense of calm. It's also very anti-inflammatory, so it's very good if you are experiencing painful periods. But our very stressful lives can really dictate how much progesterone our body is able to make in this phase of our cycle. And stresses come in so many different forms. It can be under eating, over exercise, broken sleep. It can be under nourishing on certain nutrients, or being in a depleted state. So just being mindful that there are different stages and they are going to dictate how you feel. And one of the things I'll say is that when it comes to our menstrual cycle, it really is our superpower. once we know how to work with it and try not to be working against it. Eating well or looking after what you put into your body is honestly one of the highest forms of self-care. There may be periods of your life where you can think back on where maybe you weren't feeling your best or you were going through a lot. Often that can come hand in hand with not eating well, not kind of taking time to prepare some meals, so you're eating on the go, and it kind of starts this cycle of not eating well, not feeling great, not eating well, not feeling great. So what we really need to do is try and stop that cycle from happening. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to find 2 or 3 simple habits that you can commit to long term. And we're going to go through that. And I think it's one of our main goals from this webinar is that you have at least 3 action points that you can start putting into place the following day. But going back, making sure that you are nourishing yourself is one of the best and the kindest things that you can do for yourself. But often people will say, well, what does that look like? What is eating well, or what is a balanced diet? And I can completely understand. There's so much information out there. It's information overload that we need to bring it back to basics. It doesn't have to be that we are adding in kimchi and kefir, and yes, those things are absolutely amazing for us, but unless you are looking out after the basics, your main meals, adding those things in are really not going to make much of a difference. So one of the things when I'm working with my clients, I will say to them, for the first couple of weeks, all we are going to do is build the foundations. I want you to think about the next couple of weeks and months as a wall, and we are not building the wall until the foundations are set. And the foundations are your main meals, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, your snacks, and your sleep. Okay? Then we can start building up, and then we can start adding in all of the bells and the whistles. So the base of our nutrition comes in forms of macronutrients, and you're probably well aware of these. Our proteins, our fats, our carbohydrates. The carbohydrates are the one that I usually don't spend a huge amount of time on because we get them they're so readily available, they're so convenient. The thing I always tell my clients is just make sure that you're eating enough of them, make sure that you're not skimping on them. And we're going to talk about the impact of low carbohydrate diets slightly later on when it comes to our hormones. But we need carbohydrates, but we want them in those really high quality forms. We want to make sure they're balanced with plenty of fiber, because if you're someone who exercises regularly, if you have a very busy lifestyle, you need those carbohydrates to fuel you and help you recover. The 2 I want to focus on a little bit more today are going to be your protein and your healthy fats. So protein, it is the building blocks for all of the cells in our body, and I can guarantee it's the one that's going to keep you feeling the fullest for longest. So if you're somebody who gets up in the morning, you have just a bowl of oats with some berries, and then by 10:30 or even sooner you're absolutely ravenous, it's probably because you haven't had enough protein, and those carbohydrates have just broken down in your stomach and you are left starving again. So we want to make sure that we're having enough protein. What does that look like? It is an average size or a medium sized chicken breast. It is, if you have a look at the salmon darn in that photo, it is that size of a salmon darn. If you're buying them in, say, Tesco or sometimes in Aldi, they're the really thin long ones. They are probably just half a portion. So if you're feeling hungry within an hour of having one of those for your dinner, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just you haven't had that serving of protein. So we're aiming for roughly 25 to 35 grams. Then it comes to our fats. Our fats are the building blocks for all of our hormones. And I think our kind of generation love fats. Like, we eat avocados, we're all for nut butters, nuts and seeds. But maybe it's more our parents' generation where they were just like scaremongered when it came to fats. So they love their 1-cal sprays, they love their spreads. We want to stay away from them. We want to focus on really high quality fats, and I'm going to talk about where to get them in your diet shortly. But when you're looking to balance your meal, that is a portion of protein, your portion of healthy fats, and your carbohydrates that have plenty of fiber in them. And now we're on to the micronutrients. And honestly, I think this is where I'm most passionate about, because when it comes to your micronutrients, this is where we see, especially when it comes to female hormonal health, the difference that making sure you're getting enough high quality nutrients into your diet, how that can impact your hormones, your mood, digestive health, skin. It really is incredible to see when people focus on getting those micronutrients. So there's many different ways to get micronutrients. We've got our nutrient dense foods like our fruits, our vegetables, our leafy greens. We absolutely want to focus on them. We want to make sure that we are looking at the food that we have on our plate when it comes to getting our vitamins and minerals. But then there is a place for supplements, and that is because, especially if we bring it to PMS, say, research has been done on very targeted levels of certain nutrients. So if I take magnesium, for example, we know that a dose of magnesium from 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams is going to be the most effective at supporting sleep, supporting hormone balance, energy. But that is a really difficult quantity to get when it comes to just eating your leafy greens and your vegetables. A lot of our soil, unfortunately, is deficient in nutrients, so we really do rely on getting those targeted levels from high quality supplements with bioactive ingredients, and that is something we are so we are all about at Gigi, is having nutrients that are in the form that your body can actually recognize, because there's no point spending money on supplements if your body doesn't know how to absorb them and utilize them. And then last, we have fiber. We all know we need to be eating more fiber, but I can put my hand up. I've been doing this for almost, 10 years now. And on a day-to-day basis, I can struggle with getting enough fiber in if I don't try to break it up throughout the day. So a way I would get loads of fiber in would be in nuts and seeds when I am having a smoothie, or overnight oats. On a salad, I'll make sure to have loads of spinach or rocket or kale. And then at dinner, I always aim, and I always recommend to my clients, that you aim for half of your plate full of veggies. So use a combination of fresh and frozen. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having frozen vegetables, and it would be a really easy way to get more fiber in. When it comes to hormone balance, we need to be eliminating our waste. We need to be having 1 to 2 bowel movements every single day to ensure that we are not reabsorbing those hormones that have already been used by our body, that they are being eliminated. Your skin will thank you, your digestive system will thank you, and your hormones will absolutely thank you. So let's talk about fats and the Mediterranean style diet. The Mediterranean style diet, if you look at the research, it comes up time and time again as the most beneficial for hormone balance, fertility, heart health, brain health, skin health. It is so well researched, and honestly, if there's one diet, and I don't follow diets, but if there's one way of eating to consider, is the Mediterranean style diet. And one of the reasons that it is so fantastic for hormones is because it's so packed with healthy fats from a really wide variety of sources, whether it is omega-3s from oily fish like salmon and mackerel. If you're not a fan of fish, you can get them from algae, your omega-3s, or flax seeds and walnuts. You will have to eat a lot more of them, and you may rely on a supplement a little bit more, but that's okay. We also use olives, olive oil, nuts and seeds, avocados, and just like protein, when they are in the right balance and combination, they keep you feeling full for much longer than having a fat-free version. So as I touched on earlier on, say goodbye to the 1-cal spray. Don't be afraid to use olive oil. It is only going to help you and your hormones. When it comes to painful periods, having high quality omega-3s is also really effective at reducing premenstrual cramps. So a really high quality supplement, or aiming to eat 2 to 3 portions of oily fish each week. Blood sugar balancing is probably a term that you may have heard, you may not have. If you follow myself and Jenny on any of our other accounts, we always talk about blood sugar balancing because it is vital for how you feel on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to just give you an example of a very typical day I see a lot with my clients. They will wake up, they will grab a banana and a coffee on the go, and they wonder why an hour later they're feeling absolutely starving. So they are, if you have a look here at the start with this, the pink line, they are having just pure sugar and caffeine, okay? What happens is that breaks down so quickly into the system that you have a really big crash. And when you have this crash, you start to think, oh, why don't I have discipline? Why don't I have motivation to stay away from sugar? But in actual fact, your blood sugars are so low, they're sending panic signals to the brain to get more glucose in the form of sugar, to get your blood sugars back up as soon as possible. And this can happen throughout the whole day. So you end up going on this roller coaster from the morning or the moment you wake up until the minute that you put your head on the pillow. And you wonder why maybe cravings are really intense in the evening, or why you just want like carbohydrate dense foods. It's more so to do with how the blood sugars are affecting your physiology than you yourself. So in an ideal world, we would be this lovely green wave that just kind of ebbs and flows throughout the day. There's no massive spikes and drops. And the best way to do that, you're probably going to be sick of me saying it, but eating protein, healthy fats, and those complex carbohydrates that have plenty of fiber in them, staggering them every few hours throughout the day in the form of your main meals and your snacks. And I'm going to give you some snack ideas now. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I was the girl who 6 years ago was skipping breakfast every single morning, and I honestly thought that I was doing the best thing for myself. And that was because at that time research came out around fasting and intermittent fasting, and what we only realized later on was that that research was held on males or postmenopausal women, two cohorts of people who do not have menstrual cycles. So I was waking up, getting a coffee, doing a fasted workout, and then I was waiting another hour or two to have my breakfast. And when I say it was wreaking havoc on my hormones, that's an understatement. I was really anxious in the mornings. I was going from having a 28-day cycle up to a 40 to 45-day cycle. And it was only when lockdown hit and I was no longer able to get up and do those really early morning wake up or workouts, and I had to wait till 11 to do one online. So I started to have my breakfast earlier, and things started to all kind of fall back into place. I realized what I was actually doing. And I think that so many, and I see it with my clients, that so many of us can even just fall into that habit of, we're so busy in the morning, we're trying to get up, we're trying to get ourselves out the door. If we've got kids, we're trying to get them out the door, and we just skip breakfast. And that can leave us in a state where our anxiety levels are higher, our blood sugars are imbalanced, we have really strong cravings as the day goes on for sugar or more caffeine, and it goes against everything that we are trying to do for ourselves. So having breakfast, ideally within an hour, maybe 2 hours of waking up. Try not to let it go much longer than that. When we do skip breakfast, we can experience a massive surge in our cortisol levels. So if you're somebody who is already maybe slightly anxious or has a lot on, skipping breakfast is going to just exacerbate that for you. It's going to make you feel jittery and really not your best self. Then it puts you at risk of binges or overeating later on in the day. So bringing it back to those basics, it's having breakfast, it's making sure there's protein and those complex carbohydrates, healthy fats in there. And honestly, if you can start your day with a really balanced breakfast, I would almost guarantee you that it will have such a positive impact on the rest of your day, and it will not hinder your weight loss results, it will not hinder your training. If anything, it's just going to improve all of those areas for you. So these are the snacks that I had mentioned. I'm not going to talk through them all because you will be getting the slides, but if you have a quick glance over, they're really simple. It's more so about knowing that we need to pair food together. So if you're somebody who is grabbing an apple or a banana on the go, get your apple, but have it with peanut butter or almond butter. Get your banana, slice it up with some or peanut butter as well, or have it with some Greek yogurt for that protein. It doesn't have to be really complicated. It's just knowing that having the piece of fruit by itself, it's not going to get you more than an hour without feeling like you need another snack or another bit of or another bit of caffeine. So I've been there, and I can guarantee you that having just 2 of these snacks on the go every day, packed in your bag, you will not look back. So when it comes to fasting, low carbohydrate diets and low calorie diets, these are all diets that have been manufactured in a way to make us feel like we need to cut our calories, or we need to cut out food groups, or we need to not eat for large chunks of the day. And I'm not saying that this doesn't work for some people, but if balancing your hormones is at the front of your mind and something that you really want to focus on, following either of the or any of these diets is really not going to help. If anything, is going to slow down your progress, because our body needs nourishment. It needs food to calm down the nervous system. It needs enough calories, especially if you're somebody who is trying to conceive, or if you are looking to conceive in the next maybe 6 to 12 months. You want to be sending the signals to your body that now is a really safe time to bring life into the world, that you have enough nourishment to sustain pregnancy, that you have enough calories coming in that are going to support you and your baby. So if balancing hormones, fertility are 2 things you're focusing on in 2024, I would highly recommend just saying goodbye to any of these kind of diets and just sticking to eating regular balanced meals and healthy balanced snacks. And just to bring in that menstrual cycle piece, so how it can actually impact us and how we feel throughout the month. Often women will find that in the first phase of their cycle, their hunger levels are quite stable. They may have some cravings, but they're not as intense as we go towards the lead up to their period, so that week beforehand. But that is because there's actual physiological changes happening. Your metabolism starts to ramp up, and with that you can be burning anywhere from an additional 200 to 300 calories. So that means that rather than beating yourself up if you're feeling really hungry during that phase of your cycle, actually just allowing your body to feel the hunger, but then to nourish it with like one of your balanced snacks, adding in an extra portion of protein or complex carbohydrates to one of your meals, having an additional smoothie maybe in the middle of the day. Knowing that there's a reason for it, I think, can be really helpful, rather than beating ourselves up and thinking that it's something that we're doing wrong. It's actually down to the impact that our hormonal shifts are having on our physiology. So here are the 5 top takeaways from today's webinar. I hope you found it really informative. I hope you have some nuggets of information, or I hope I've been able to debunk maybe some of the myths that you had been wondering about. But bringing it back to the basics, it's about eating protein, fats, carbohydrates and fibre at your main meals. Avoid skipping meals, especially breakfast, when you're looking to support your hormones. Snack smart. There's nothing wrong with having a snack, but having it that it's in a balanced way is going to make you feel much better for longer. Eating a really wide variety of nutrient dense foods, from your fruits and your vegetables to even getting it in a high quality supplement like GG to support your hormones and your energy levels. And last but not least, work with your cycle and not against it. So next month's webinar is going to be a real deep dive on the menstrual cycle. So make sure that once we notify you of it, that you sign up. And as I said, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to answering any of your questions, and I will see you soon.